Okay, good morning. How are you? Only Ceren is here. Can you hear me, Ceren? Jada. Okay, coming up. More and more coming up, hopefully. All right. Now, today I'm going to begin chapter 6 of the third part. In the previous part, we have seen that we have read that Gulliver is visiting an academy in Lagado. And in this academy, he has seen very strange projects like, turning cucumbers into sunshine and eliminating all the words in a language. But this didn't work. This project didn't work. There was a joke there. The women protested. You cannot eliminate the language. You cannot eliminate speaking. The project was to eliminate all sorts of speaking in the country, so you shouldn't speak. You should just carry the names of objects in your pocket and show them instead of speaking, but the women protested that. So, in chapter 6, he goes to the School of Politics, Political Academy. In the School of Political Projectors, I was but ill entertained, the professors appearing, in my judgment, wholly out of their senses, which is a scene that never fails to make me melancholy. So, this is another school called School of Political Projectors. There are political projects here, and these political projects are strange again, which propose some impossible political projects. For example, these unhappy people were proposing schemes for persuading monarchs to choose favorites upon the score of their wisdom, capacity, and virtue. Well, sounds logical at first look. The projectors here suggest that the monarchs, the aristocrats, should choose their favorite people by looking at their wisdom, capacity, and virtue, of teaching ministers to consult the public good, of rewarding merit, great abilities, eminent services, of instructing princes to know their true interest by placing it on the same foundation with that of their people, of choosing for employments persons qualified to exercise them, with many other wild, impossible chimeras that never entered before into the heart of man to conceive, and confirmed in me the old observation that there is nothing so extravagant and irrational which some philosophers have not maintained for truth. Now, these political projectors are against corruption, and they are supporting the wisdom, logic, and capacity, the virtue of people in order to select the political posts, political jobs. However, I shall so far do justice to this part of the academy as to acknowledge that all of them were not so visionary. But not all of them had the vision, not all of them had some logical propositions. There was a most ingenious doctor who seemed to be perfectly versed in the whole nature and system of government. So what kind of a doctor was it? This illustrious person had very usefully employed his studies in finding out effectual remedies for all diseases and corruptions. So he says that he has a remedy, a solution for the political corruptions and political diseases. He suggests that several kinds of public administration are subject by the vices of infirmities of those who govern, as well as by the licentiousness of those who are to obey. For instance, so the public administrators are influenced by their personal infirmities, personal illnesses maybe, whereas all writers and reasoners have agreed that there is a strict universal resemblance between the natural and the political body. This projector suggests that the political body, the government, the party, the assembly, it resembles the natural human body. In the same way as the natural human body, which sometimes gets ill, the political body also gets ill. So in order to avoid this, can there be anything more evident than the health of both must be preserved? So we have to protect our own body health, and we also have to protect the health of the political body. So, how do we do that? The disease is cured by the same prescriptions. Now, if we can prescribe some medicine for our body illnesses, we can also prescribe medicines for the political illnesses. Like, it is allowed that the senates and great councils are often troubled with redundant, ebullient, and other peccant humors, with many diseases of the head, more of the heart, with strong convulsions, with grievous contractions of the nerves and sinews in both hands, but especially the right, with spleen, flatus, vertigos, deliriums, scrofulous tumors full of fetid, virulent matter, with sour, frothy ructations, with canine appetites, crudeness of digestion, besides many others needless to mention. So then the personal biological body can be infected by such illnesses. And this doctor therefore proposed that upon the meeting of a Senate, so when the assembly is coming together, when the members of the parliament are coming together, for example, in Meclis, certain physicians should attend at the 3 first days of their sitting and at the close of each day's debate. Certain physicians, doctors, should attend the meetings, the opening day and the closing day of the meeting. Feel the pulses of each senate. So they have to check the pulses of everyone, all the members, feel the pulses of every senator, after which, having maturely considered and consulted upon the nature of several maladies, the methods of cure, they should on the 4th day return to the Senate House, attended by their apothecaries, chemists, pharmacists, apothecaries, stored with proper medicines before the members sat. Administer to each of them lenitives, aperitifs, abstersives, corrosives, restringers, palliatives, laxatives, cephalalgics, hysterics, apophlegmatics, acoustics, and several cases required. Each senate is given a certain medicine according to their illness. And according as these medicines should operate, repeat, alter, and omit them at the next meeting. So the idea is they have to check the pulses of each senator, and then they have to check their illnesses, body illnesses, and if they have any body illness, they give them a certain medicine to protect the political body as well. This is the idea. So that they should not fight, they should not get very angry in the Senate, they should not shout at each other. So when they get ill, if they don't get ill, the political body don't get ill. I skip the next 3 short paragraphs. when parties in a state are violent, he offered a wonderful contrivance to reconcile them. So imagine that there are two parties in the parliament fighting with each other all the time in violent action. The method is this. You take 100 leaders of each party. You dispose them into couples of such whose heads are nearest of size. All right? You choose 100 members and make them sit next to one another from different parties, but their head sizes must be similar. Okay? So then, let two nice operators solve the occupant of each couple at the same time, in such a manner that the brain may be equally divided. Okay? Everybody's brain is equally divided, and one half of one's brain will be transplanted into the next person, and that half of the next person will be transplanted into this one. So the half of your brain will be changed by the half of somebody else's brain. And what happens is, you will learn how to think in the mind of somebody else. Okay? A wonderful project. It seems, indeed, to be a work that required some exactness. But the professor assured us that if it were dexterously performed, the cure would be infallible. So you need perfect surgeons to do that, dexterously doing it. It would work. So, this is a very difficult project, of course. In the next paragraph, sorry about my tea, I heard a very warm debate between two professors about the most commodious and effectual ways and means of raising money without grieving the subject. So, raising money, taxing. How will they collect taxes from the society? The first offered the justest method would be to lay a certain tax upon vices and folly. So, tax the stupidity and the cleverness. So, how do you do that? The sum fixed upon every man to be rated after the fairest manner by a jury of his neighbors. The second was of opinion. So, vice and logic, your neighbors will decide how stupid you are. Then you will pay a high tax. The second was of an opinion directly contrary to tax those qualities of body and mind for which men chiefly value themselves, the rate to be more or less according to the degrees of excellence, the decision whereof should be left entirely to their own breast. So, the qualities of body and your mind for man, then you have to judge your own body and your mind. If you think that you are very clever and your body is very strong, you have to pay a higher tax. But if you want to say that your body is very weak and you're not very clever, so you pay a lower tax. And the highest tax was upon men, who are the greatest favorites of the other sex. So now, if the man is favorable among women, then he has to pay a higher tax. Who decides that? The man himself. All right? If he says that I'm very popular and favorable among women, then you have to pay a higher tax. But if you think that I'm not favorable among women, you pay a less tax. So, man, decide yourself. Are there any men in the classroom now? Görkem is here. Okay. So, and Yes. Wit, valor, politeness were likewise proposed to be largely taxed and collected in the same manner by every person's giving his own word for the quantum of what he possessed. So your wit, if you're a witty person, your valor, your politeness are taxed largely, but the decision is yours, how polite you are, how wise you are. As to honor, justice, wisdom, and learning, they should not be taxed at all, because they are qualifications of so singular a kind that no man will either allow them in his neighbor or value them in himself. So wisdom, justice, learning are not taxed at all, because no man would say that his neighbor is very learned, very just person. The women were proposed to be taxed according to their beauty, okay, and skill in dressing, wherein they had the same privilege with the man, to be determined by their own judgment. Now, the more beautiful you are, the more tax you have to pay for women, okay? So women have to pay more tax if they think they are beautiful, because the judgment has to be their own judgment. You see, if a woman thinks that she is beautiful, then she has to pay a higher tax. If she thinks that she's not very beautiful, she pays less tax. So the decision is left to women. All right. Another professor, I skip the next paragraph. This is very interesting. Another professor showed me a large paper of instructions for discovering plots and conspiracies against the government. Plots and conspiracies. Plots and conspiracies, you know what that means, conspiracy? What does it mean? It means, you know, we call it complot against the government. Conspiracy against the government. How do you understand the conspiracy against the government? He advised great statesmen to examine into the diet of all suspected persons. So examine the diet of whom you are suspicious of. Okay? The suspected people's diet, what they eat, is important. Their times of eating, upon which side they lay in bed, with which hand they wipe their posteriors. Posteriors, you know, your organs in the bottom. Okay? You wipe your posterior. To take a strict view of their excrements. Strict view of their excrements, their toilet. Okay? And from the color of your excrement, the color, the smell, and the taste. Can you imagine? And I'm sorry, I lost my hand. Yes, the color, the odor, the taste, the consistence, the crudeness of or maturity of digestion form a judgment of their thoughts and designs, because men are never serious, thoughtful, intent as when they are at stool. At stool means in the toilet. Men are very serious, very intent, very thoughtful in the toilet. So when you examine their excrement, you can find out what they are thinking. All right? So if you examine the excrements of people, you can understand whether they are intending on conspiracy against the government or not. Very interesting, you know. Okay. The final paragraph of this chapter. I saw nothing in this country that could invite me to a longer continuance, and began to think of returning home to England. That's the end of the chapter. Let me finish this session and then start the second session in 5 minutes. See you.